You're rocking with some of the realest coaches in the game. Coach RB and Coach CB. Area code 459.
What up, area code 459? It's your boy Coach B, and I'm here with my co-host Coach CB. What's up, CB?
What's up, Coach? How you doing?
Man, I'm blessed. Man, before we jump into our episode today, go ahead and thank some people.
We just want to give a huge shout out to East Bay In-House Ink and J Made Crafts. They've done an amazing job helping us get everything together and continue to help us put out our logo and our gear that we have. And we want to give a shout out to our friends and our family for supporting us. You can never do anything great without support. And then most importantly, God for giving us the vision to show us how to use our life to shape everyone around us.
Right. Man, I'm super excited because we're just launching our next mini-series. It's called The Standard, man. I'm super excited. This is going to be a mini-series that's going to feature a lot of us in it, and we're just going to be talking about building the standard. Our first episode is going to be centered around our first pillar of the standard, and that is you. Today, we want to start out the standard series with the most important piece of creating a standard. And like we said, that is you. This reminds me so much of one of my favorite songs, sung and co-produced by none other than Michael Jackson. You know how it goes. It says, I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to make a change his ways, or I'm asking him to change his ways, and no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Some people do not know that Michael Jackson did not write this song. And this is one of the very few outside songs that the king of pop had approved during his 1980s rise to the throne of royalty. When Jackson heard the words, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change, he absolutely loved it. It makes sense why Mike would love it. Not only does it have soul, beauty, funk, of great music, it was a perfect tune for the essence of who Michael Jackson was. This was only written for one singer, even though it has more than one singer on it. But it was a transcending song, and it was beautifully etched in social consciousness in the lyrics, and it brought the outside world in, and it basically harbored what's going on in the outside world. And the reason why I leveraged this song, or the reason why I wanted to put the song out there and why we're talking, is because it makes perfect sense. We as people must set standards for ourselves. We must have values and stay true to who we are. God made us all unique. He made us all with specific talents that are available for us to leverage as we navigate this game that we call life. So CB, today, let's come to the table and let's talk about how important those letters Y-O-U are and what it is used to build the standards. So question number one at our roundtable today is, what are your values and how did you establish yours?
I'd say my values are character and integrity and being true to who I am, which that comes with communication, like I always say, loving people first. And then I would say the third one that goes along with all of that is to just be someone that people can trust, that people can come to and know that it's a no judgment zone, that whoever you are, you're safe in my presence. And I established this because people always say you find your purpose in your pain. And I established a lot of who I am from the lack of that growing up, and the people around me that I used to surround myself with. And I realized that I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want people to come to me and say, we can't count on her. Her word doesn't mean anything. I have no idea where she is because she hasn't communicated anything. Like, we don't know where she stands. I want people to know that when they come to me, they know exactly who I'm going to get night in and night out. They feel comfortable around me. They know they can trust me. I have that sense of confidentiality that whenever they say anything, that's as far as it's going to go. It's going to go between my ears and in my mind, and that's where it'll stay. And that's how I established it. I looked at the people around me and I saw what I didn't want to be. And then I figured out how I could be the opposite of that and make myself better. And that is how I established my values with commitment. I mean, integrity, character, and then being trustworthy.
Good. I like how you just said that. Like, look at people around you and basically not, or see what you didn't want to be. That's my favorite Lincoln quote, right? From you can learn from everyone, but from most you learn what not to do. And as we talk about what are the values and how did you establish yours, mine are high energy, love, and truthfulness, and then ultimately empathy. And the way that I gather those four is that I feel that when you do things with love and you do things in truth, people respect that because they see how you're genuine. A lot of people in today's world, don't do a lot of things for to, in full authenticity. You could see them just do things for clout, like how many likes can I get on Twitter, or how many likes can I get on Instagram. It's not real genuine. It's not real true. People that are not really genuine, not really true, they only live in a fad world. They live in the right now. I think I was watching one of our former guests on Twitter, and I was watching something that was kind of cool. What he said, he basically was like, people don't respect consistency anymore. They just want the right now. And you think to yourself, like, that's exactly how people live. They don't live in this world of genuine, being genuine or authenticity. They just, and they don't, and so when they live like that, they don't live in truth. So my thing is, definitely I leverage love is my number one thing. Like, love what you do, love the people you do it for, and have passion. The second thing is do it truthful, and do it authentic. The next thing is empathy, being able to see the world through somebody else's eyes. I think a lot of people miss that part. And even we just got through with our mini series for the culture, and we talked about like looking at different people's standpoints from other viewpoints, the way they live. I think a lot of people miss that part. And I think when you're building your values, when you're building at you, before you can step onto somebody else's before you can step into somebody else's shoes, you have to look and empathize with who they are and how they grew up, or what they go through. And the last thing, man, is definitely high energy, man. I'm a high passionate guy. Even on the podcast, I have to keep my voice down because I'm like ready to shout, and because I'm super excited. I'm super high energy. And, I think as energy, as energy goes, energy flows. Like, the idea is, you want to have that awesome energy. You want to have that awesome frequency. You want people to, want to be around you. It's like that electromagnetic type of feel, like you create electricity. So when it comes to what are your values and how do you establish them, those are the four that I lean on. I really lean on love and truthfulness, empathy, and high energy. And, I feel like they've all been established just in the makeup of who I am. Now, I have gone through different things in my life, but I would have to say that I learned all those values from sports. And not everybody gets an opportunity to play sports, but a lot of people do play sports, or they watch sports. And, throughout my playing career and throughout coaching, I got the idea of, loving what I do with passion, standing up for my truths, and being who I am and staying true to myself, and empathizing with the people that I play with and their situations and how they live, that they're more than just athletes, they're also people. And then also having high energy, because if you are that energy vampire in your team or in your company or whatever, you could bring them down and then ultimately not bring them up. So, those are the four things that I leverage for my values, for sure. Caitlin, second question on the roundtable is, why is it important to have things, why is it important to have things you don't compromise?
I think it's important because if you don't stand for anything, you stand for everything. You know what I mean? And so if I don't have if I don't know who I am, I don't know what I stand for, I don't have values, I don't have things to kind of filter what I hear, what I see, things that I'm around, then I'm just gonna let everything slide. I'm gonna let myself be treated one way. I'm not going to be able to help other people stand up for who they are. Like, I just feel like it's a recipe for disaster when you don't have things that you don't compromise. Like, if I compromise my honesty, if I compromise my character, if I compromise my integrity, my trustworthiness, then at the end of the day, like, the person that I built and the consistency that I've had in who I am, like, goes out the door, and all the relationships that I built are now on sand, and now they can just be washed away. And I think that's super important, because at the end of the day, like, life is about relationships. And if people don't know who you are as a person and don't know what you stand for and don't know what they're getting, then at the end of the day, like, they're not going to want to be around you. They're not going to be able to trust you with what they've built in their life, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And you know me, always on area code 459, got to bring grandma into it, right? Man, Christ, the solid rock I stand, all other surfaces are sinking sand, right? Like, man, that's like the thing too, man. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, when you say, why is it important to have things you don't compromise? I'd have to say it from a standpoint of, man, there's been a lot of situations that I put a lot of compromising on myself. And I just did it myself. Like we talked about in our last series, talk about choices, right? Having the opportunity to stand up and make choices. And I've made some bad choices in my life. And the good thing about it is they weren't choices that got me in a lot of trouble. You know what I mean? They were choices that either, I got a real like tap on the hand, like, oh man, don't do that, wake up. Or it was even like choice that closed the door for me that I had to learn from, and then I had to turn that loss into a lesson, and then come back, the next day and try to build on that. It's really tough. Like when people say, "Why is it important that you don't compromise?" Check it. I'll give you a story. Like I remember, playing football. We talk about sports all the time. I remember I played college football in Montgomery, and Christian school don't know that I did this, but went off campus and went to the Sky Bar in Auburn, Alabama. And everybody that's listening to this know what the Sky Bar is and what it's about. Wednesday night, college night. Went up there, drank a little bit too much, hung out a little bit too much, came home, and I had to be at walk through the next day. This is my senior year, second game of the season, captain of my football team, first conference game. I mean, on the road, like it was just so important because I worked so hard to get to that point. Went out drinking that night, and I used to live in a place where we had our rooms on each end, and in the middle was our common area. And my room was right next to the street in the parking lot where we parked our cars, and my roommate's was near the hallway. My roommate got up the next morning for walkthrough, walked past my room, got in his car, went to walkthrough. Now, remember, I'm a starter, so I'm a starter on offense, and I'm on like 4 different special teams. And he never even knocked on my door. By the time I woke up, I was so like, wow, oh my gosh, I rushed to the field. I get there, everybody's walking off the field. Well, if you know anything about the university I played for, in order to get to the field house and get to the field, you have to drive down this long road. So as I'm driving down this long road, I'm looking at everybody walking off the field. I was ashamed. And that's where it goes back to what is the importance that you have things you don't compromise. I compromised everything that day. And I could say it like this. I was out partying, and had I, gotten caught, I probably would have, lost more playing time, got suspended, worse things could have happened. Or me even missing that practice, I had to sit out a quarter. I hurt my team because plays that were scripted for me were still scripted, but they didn't have as an effect. And I remember getting into that game after I served my quarter suspension. I went nuts. I think I had like 100 and some yards, and I mean I had like 2 big catches over 50 yards, and it still was like after we were done, I still felt that I was ashamed. And I had to apologize to my coach, like, had to apologize to my team. Like, look, that is not how I act. I need to be more mature than this. I'm a 22-year-old senior. You know, I shouldn't be doing this stuff during football season, right before the game, missing practice, not focused on what the important deal is. And that's why you have to be important, because like you said, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And I fell for it that day. And, I was embarrassed for myself. I had to wake up the next week and run 5 miles at 5 a.m. So I was tired one day, you know what I mean? And I got punished. I was embarrassed for my teammates. I wasn't a true captain. And, the thing about it is it really knocked me down a notch and humbled me, because it's like, hey, you have to do better, and you can't be on the wayside of things like that. So definitely stand up for what you believe in and stand up for your values, because like CV said, if you don't believe in something or stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
I like that you brought up
Go ahead.
choices, because like you said in the last question, a lot of things that become fads nowadays, and even values can become a fad. Like right now, your fad can be empathy, or your fad can be standing up and speaking for your friend. But what happens if you don't wholeheartedly believe in it? And I believe that being committed to things that you don't want to compromise, like that makes choices easier, because it's like, okay, for me, I don't drink. So it's like I have an option to go to a party and drink, or an option to go to the gym and work. Well, I'm not, because I know that I don't drink and that's my value and that's something that I stick by because that's who I am, then it's easy for me to tell those people no. And it's easy for me to go to the gym and work and get better at my goals and my vision for my future. And the same thing is like, it's not a fad for me, because I don't do none of that. I don't stay up late. Like I said, it's my character, my integrity, and now I'm standing for something, so it makes my choices easier. I love that you brought up choices. Like, don't let your values be a fad. Make them something that you're committed to every day.
I like that. Cool.
Yeah. But our next question for our round table is, what are the challenges that come along with staying committed to your standards?
Man, this is a tough one, man. I knew I had to go first on this, so that's cool though, man. Being committed to your standards is about the toughest thing that can ever happen. It really is. And because everything, I used to teach something in my history class, and it was what is history? And people used to be like, Coach, why you ask us that question? And I would always want to know the definition of history. Well, when you look at the definition of history, people talk about it straying through the minds and the temperaments of the people that place their interpretations upon it. And I know that's a mouthful, but when you think about it, my values aren't your values. So you might interpret your values to be one thing, and I might interpret my values to be another thing. And then honestly and truly, we could be going in two opposite directions. So at some point, it's almost like, what is history? It's like it's strained through the mind and the temperament, my heart, of who I am and how I place my interpretation upon it. Now, with that being said, the challenges that come with staying committed to your standards is you're going to lose friends. That's number one. Number one, you're going to lose friends. People are not going to like you. People are going to hate on you. You see what I'm saying? And I'm one of those silent thinkers. So I always tell people, man, I like to keep everything in silence and let my actions do the talking. At the same time, I like to take my circle and I like to shrink it. A lot of people don't, really like to, I don't have a lot of people that, I hang out with like that, you know what I mean? And it's okay. I'm not saying that I don't like people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I don't have really big groups of people. I'm not a jester. I don't do backflips. I'm not a circus monkey. I don't have anything that I need to be showing of tons and groups of people. The people that I am close to, are tight knit, and that's because they hold the same values and the same standards that I hold. We are, how does God like to say it in the Bible? We're evenly yoked as people. The other thing that's hard is sometimes regret. I think regret's going to be my next one. Regret's one of those things where you're saying committed to your standards. Sometimes you're like, man, it looks like they're having a lot of fun. We talked about social media, right? People are going to put that fake story out there to make you feel as if they're having tons of fun. But at the same time, are they really having fun? You see what I'm saying? Like, my fun is when I go to sleep and I wake up the next morning, I'm here on this earth, my family's okay, and then also have that deep self of calm. The other thing that, you know, and this is the last thing, and I'll let you jump on this question too, CB, is my grandma used to tell me, I've never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. You know what I mean? Never seen one. Never seen one. People can't take stuff with you. So as I've gotten a little bit older, I say to myself, you know what? All that fun is not really fun. You see what I'm saying? Because you are just trying to have stuff. You're trying to have the physical, and you're not really focused on the intellectual, and you're not really focused on things that matter. You see what I'm saying? That they're not really substance, right? Something that you can touch and feel is something that, you know, you actually have inside you. And that's one thing that I've leveraged is, you know, I'm not really focused on the regrets. You know what I mean? I think when people focus on the regrets of like fun and stuff, to me, they compromise their standards. So that's not what I'm about. I'm going to stay true to who I am. I'm going to keep leveraging my love, my truthfulness, my high energy, and my empathy, because if I do that, at the end of the day, when I get ready to ride in my hearse, hopefully it's gold painted, that people will know that I stuck to my standards and who I am.
Yeah, I really like that you said that, because I agree with the first thing that you said, that you're going to be alone a lot. Like, I was one of those people, especially in high school and in college, where everybody knew me and I knew everybody. But when I have my free time, people never know where I'm at. Like, I'm always alone. And that was hard for a long time, because like you look around and you're like, I know all of these people, but I haven't had one person text me or call me or ask me to hang out or ask me to go to a friend's house or a party or whatever. And that's hard, because it's like, how come you like me in the moment, but when we're not together anymore, it's like, now I'm just standing alone. But sometimes you have to stand alone and stand up so you don't fall, and then have to go find yourself later, you know? And then I think another thing that's hard is afraid of what people are going to say. And a lot of times people don't understand why you do what you do, like you said, because they don't have the same convictions as you do. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to follow the ways of the crowd. Like, the road less traveled is sometimes the one that produces the most success and the most value, the most joy for you. And you have to stick by that. Like, there will be times when you have to go through trials and you have to go through tribulations and you have to go through hard times. But at the end of the day, it's like you always say, like, iron sharpens iron. It's putting that pressure on you. So at the end of the day, like, you turn into a diamond. And your path may be different, but standing up for what you believe in is ultimately what's gonna help you shine through. And that's why it's so hard to stay committed to your standards, because like you said, on social media, I saw a picture the other day, a meme, and it was this guy, the whole room was black, but there was a flashlight on his foot. And it's like, social media only shows you one step at a time in somebody's life. They don't show you the whole thing. And so you're sitting here looking through a false window shopping someone else's life, and you want that for yourself, but you don't know all the hurt and the pain that's behind that window. And so you got to just stick to who you are, stay committed, and when it does get hard, don't compromise, because the more that you practice sticking by yourself, is the more it's going to make it easier to do so every time that you have a challenge come your way.
Tough. Man, it's crazy that you said that. I almost fell out my seat. I was like, ooh, window shopping somebody else's life? Okay. Ooh, that's tough. Yeah, man. Don't, like you said, don't be out there window shopping other people's life, man. Stick to your values, stick to who you are. When you say that, Caitlin, our next question on the roundtable is, what have your standards done for you?
Well, I say in the sports world, it's very, how would I put this? It's very tight knit. Like, it's a brotherhood or a sisterhood or a family. And once you're in, but it's very easy to ruin the relationships that you have just by making one mistake. And yeah, it sounds like that's a lot of pressure, but the pressure only comes when you don't stick to who you are. And that's what it's done for me. It's actually helped me to build relationships. And a lot of times it takes a long time to cultivate good relationships with people, and especially when like basketball is a kind of a transactional, sports is a very transactional world. And a lot of times you need people to help you get somewhere, to help you level up or get where you're trying to go. And for me as a woman, like I'm trying to get into the men's world of sports. And that's even harder to do as well, just because it's not something that everybody's trying to do. It's kind of an untapped market at the moment. And that's what makes it that much harder. So because I'm committed to who I am, because I have high character, because I have integrity, because I'm a good communicator and I'm trustworthy, people are saying, okay, like, let me give this girl a chance with my boys. I know that she's going to go in there and be professional. She's going to be smart. She's going to make the right decision. So I don't have to worry about all the repercussions that may come with a female being around a group of men, you know? And I think that's really helped me. It's helped my career. It's helped me build relationships, authentic, genuine ones, because I'm not one to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to get to know you because I need something from you. Like I genuinely care about people, and that's another one of my characteristics is like I love the person, not what they can do for me. Like at the end of the day, when they can't do anything for me anymore, I don't want them to sit on the shelf and get dusty. I still want them to be a part of my life and to still add value to who I am every day. So that's what they've done for me. It's really helped elevate me, and it's really helped me meet a lot of great people that pour into me, because I pour out a lot to a lot of people, a lot of younger people that I'm around and been mentoring, and you still got to make sure that you have people around you to pour into you. And so being able to stick to my standards and who I am and my values, that's really helped me build those great relationships that allow me to continue to be filled so I can keep pouring into others.
Man, that's tough. That's tough. When you talk about what have your standards done for you, I'd have to say my first one would be being able to say no. Being able to say no. And when you say that you pour your life into a lot of people, that's what I've done all my life. And especially like 99% of my professional career, probably I've done more for others than I've done for myself. And that's okay to do for others, but sometimes doing for others compromises who you are. It gave me the sense of being able to say no to some things. And my, like I said, man, my grandma, she's like, man, I bet you my little baby loves to give me a lot of love on his podcast. She used to tell me too, like, grandma don't have to come pick you up from no jail because I raised you right. And those standards, I've never had to make choices that will put me into bad situations. That gave me an opportunity to say no. Like, I didn't have to go and be in the streets for any reason, whether it was to survive or whether it was to play around, whatever. I didn't have to be in the streets. It was funny because one of our former guests, Coach Moulton from North Carolina Central, used to say, or he does say, if the streets weren't made for you, so stay on the sidewalk. You know what I mean? And that was the idea, was the streets weren't made for me. I stayed on the sidewalk. I understood how to say no. I understood who I was at a very young age. And what I get a lot in today's world is a lot of people ask, they keep asking me, how old are you? How old are you? Like you seem like you're wise beyond your years because you know how to be mature. You know how to act. You know how to say no. The other thing I would say when it says what have my standards done for me is it's made me a man. You know what I mean? And it's made me an adult. It's made me realize, like, hey, these are the things that you leverage. These are the things that you say you are. Live up to those things. And it's crazy because a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's probably sitting in front of the camera. He's sitting in front of the microphone and he's saying he's been doing this for 30 years. No, I'm not saying that. I said it earlier. I've made plenty of mistakes, right? I've compromised my values plenty of times. And I will say it really hit home about 4 years ago, man. I had a little bit of an anger issue, man. And I realized that it wasn't that I was angry at a certain person. I was just angry at myself. I was angry at myself. I was angry at life. I was just going through because I was holding on to something, right? And I needed to let it go. It's so funny because we had another podcast guest that talked about pruning, like how important it is to prune and to reset. And we talked about it last mini series with reflection, how important it is to reflect on things. And what I noticed is I was an angry person. I was an angry person. I got ejected from a basketball game for slapping some water bottles. The water bottle hit my significant other in the stands. I embarrassed myself. I embarrassed my team. I got embarrassed my school, my principal, my boss. I got ejected for the game, got suspended 2 games, got fined by the state of Florida. And I realized then and there that this isn't the guy that talks about love. This isn't the guy that talks about truthfulness. This isn't the guy that believes in empathy. This isn't the guy that's high energy and never lets anything bring him down. Who is this guy? I didn't know who this guy was. And when I got back to my standards, when I got back to who I am, what I believe, these pillars that I say that I am, the next thing you know, I was like, man, nothing can stop me. And now what I do is I'm more cognizant of losing those things, because now I do things like reflect, right? I look back on things and say, you know what? I need to do that better. Or, hey, I almost lost it here. Let me do this. One thing I've been taking from you as we've been working together is communicate. I've even just communicated. Like, I don't let things get on my shoulders too heavy. I just let it out. I communicate it. I tell people what's bothering me, or I have conversations, meaningful conversations. You know what I mean? And then, I also listen. So I reflect, I communicate, and I listen. And those things help me stay to my standards and my values that I am, that I have, because those are important to me.
I'm so glad that you brought up being able to say no, because that is something I struggled with for the longest time. I didn't know how to say no and take care of myself, because like that's another standard. Like, your standard has to be you. Like, you have to know that the standard has to be, I have to take care of myself. And everything, like being able to say no doesn't mean that you're not serving, that you're not helping other people, that you're being selfish. Like, none of that matters. It's that I know how much I can pour out, and I know how much like I can give to other people, but then I have to know how much I need to be able to give back to myself. Because we always say, you have to be able to love yourself to be able to love others.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not taking time to reflect on myself, if I'm not taking time to continue to learn who I am, then, like you said, you're angry. So if you didn't take the time to understand and reflect that you're angry, then
Mm-hmm.
you're projecting that on other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because how you feel about yourself is how you feel about other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important to say no, because you have to have that quiet time with yourself. And a lot of people don't understand that, like, it's not easy to sit in a room of silence with just yourself, because it causes you to really think about what's going on inside of you. And it's tough to really talk to yourself, because just like I communicate to you every day, I have to communicate to myself every day. I have to do a mental check. I have to do a heart check. I have to do a soul check and see where I am. And sometimes I do it in the morning on my way to work, because I'm about to go work with kids, and kids know exactly how you're feeling. They don't even have to hear you say it.
Mm-hmm.
They're like those mood temperature checks. Like, they
Mm-hmm.
know that your mood is at 50 today, or your mood's at 100 today. They know without you having to speak. And so I have to make sure I check myself and reflect every morning on how I'm feeling. So when I step into that door at work, I'm ready to go for them. So I'm not reflecting who I am feeling on the inside onto the kids that I'm helping out every day. And so it's very important to say no, because you got to take care of yourself. I love that you said that. But our next question is, why do people struggle with holding themselves accountable to the characteristics that they want to become?
It's just like you said, like you have to have a temperature check. I mean, it's real. You have to have a temperature check. And you have to understand that you're going to struggle holding yourself accountable when your temperature matches other people's temperature. You see what I'm saying? And I'll break that down a little bit. Like you talked about earlier, you up there window shopping somebody else's life, right? The idea is that you feel that that's cool that they're doing it. So you think, even though mama told me not to do it, I'm gonna do it, right? We talk about grandma all the time, right? Grandma's like, yo, I made some cookies. They hot. You touch the stove, you're gonna burn your hand. You touch that cookie, you're gonna burn your hand and your mouth. And then I'm gonna whoop you because you messed up twice. what you gonna do? You're gonna walk over there and you're gonna touch the cookie because you want a cookie. You know what I mean? It's just natural. Like human nature is saying that you want to be, or you want to fit, or you want to conform to somebody else's standard, right? This is the tough thing that a lot of things is happening right now in our country is because people look at it like, which side do you, which way do you believe? Do you believe in what you've always been taught, or do you believe in what is right? Right? And I talk about grandma all the time, and I'm like, grandma has some wise words, right? But I've pushed back on grandma before, you know, and I've said things like, hey, if I don't stand up, if I don't, you know, be bold, if I don't do this, I don't do this, then I miss out opportunities. And that's been something that my grandma and I, you know, have gone back and forth with. My dad was raised by her. We've gotten back and forth with it. So just to kind of wrap it all up, it's that people feel that if they don't do it the way somebody else wants them to do it, they're not going to be loved, or they're not going to be liked, or they're going to miss out, or they're going to be a misfit, right? They're not going to fit in the puzzle piece. And the idea that I always tell myself is, I want to be the square that fits in the circle hole. Everybody's like, that don't make no sense. That means you don't fit. I don't want to fit. I want to stand out. I want to be different. Dare to be different is one of the things I used to talk about in my program. Like, dare to be different. Everybody used to be like, so explain that, coach. I had a meeting with an AAU team out of Memphis earlier last week, and I told them, I said, what's triple threat? Kid stood up in the screen. It was all cute. He got the basketball. He stood up. He put it under his pocket. All that, you know, looked all nice and everything. And I was like, that's cool. I said, but that's not my triple threat. He looked at me and was like, what you mean? I said, my triple threat is this: shoot, shoot, shoot. And he looked at me like, what you mean? I said, you have to be a threat to score on the offensive end of the floor. If you're not a threat to score, people are going to look at you like, Russell Westbrook, we're going to leave you wide open, let you just shoot bricks all day. You see what I'm saying? And, you know, I'm not snapping on Russell Westbrook. You're a pro, dude. Do your thing. But I'm just saying, like, that was evident in that series that they were like, this dude can't shoot. So dare to be different. Step outside yourself. Don't be like somebody else. Don't window shop somebody else's life. Be different. If it don't feel right, then it ain't right. It's wrong. You see what I'm saying? I tell people all the time, I'm like, we talk about the Bible verse where Jesus goes into the wilderness and he does 40 days, and the devil comes up and he appears to him and he says, you're God, you know, if you're hungry, eat. And everybody's like, oh, well, you know, he was talking to a talking snake. And I'm like, no, he wasn't. He was talking to himself. That's called his conscience, right? You have people on your shoulders, your conscience, a good and a bad, right and wrong. If it don't feel right, then it's wrong, period. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm asking our listeners, be different. You know what I mean? People struggle with holding self accountable with the characteristics of who they are and their values because they're too busy trying to be fit in with everybody else. They don't want to be a misfit. They don't want to get picked on. They don't want this. They don't want that. Well, you don't want that. So you don't want to be like those people. So be you. Be you. God made you special with a special skill set. Like I said to the young men from Memphis, I said, if you're a threat to score every time on the offensive end of the floor, guess what? That coach is going to do something to stop you. If you're not an offensive threat, you are in the way. And guess what? You're handicapping your team because there's only 4 of you that can play offense because you obviously can't play it. So be different, be a misfit, be the square in a round hole.
Yeah, and I think that why people struggle so much with holding themselves accountable is for 2 reasons. One, they get tired they get tired and weary. They get tired of holding in their standards because it's hard. Like when you stand up against, like if I'm 1 in 1,000 and I'm the only one standing, like that's 1,000 eyes on me, man. And it's hard. It's scary. And sometimes it can be embarrassing because they don't understand it or their values are different. And it's embarrassing to be different sometimes, but you can't let that stop you. Like, you have to be confident in that. People get tired of walking up the river, so they decide to get their boat and start floating down it to where they meet everybody else. Like, that's not okay. It's not okay to be like everybody else. Like I always say, don't discount your value. Like, everybody is unique, and that's why you got to have your own standards. So now you can really embody who you are. And then I think the second thing is people don't ask why. Like, my parents teach me a lot of stuff, but sometimes if I didn't ask why that they are teaching me that, or why they're telling me that, or why they developed that standard, then I'm going to just, like you say, I'm just going to be molded by them. And at a certain point, then I stop thinking for myself. And that's why it becomes hard to hold myself accountable, because now I don't think for myself anymore, because I've always let people define who I am or define my standards and what I stand up for. So I think it's important that we ask why. And it's not, you don't have to do it disrespectfully. Like, you can, like, for my mom, that's one of the things she taught me. She taught me a lot about financial literacy, let's say that. And she told me, if I'm gonna buy a phone, buy the one that I can afford. But what happens if I want one that's $1,000 versus one that's $200? So if she taught me buy one that I can afford, then I just say, hey Mom, why? Why are you telling me that? And then she'll say, because if you have $1,000 in your bank and you spend it all on the phone, what happens if the phone breaks? Now you can't fix it. And so it's important to ask why, and to know why you stand behind your values, or know why your parents are teaching you something, or why your mentor is teaching it to you. So now you know, okay, do I want that to become me, or do I want to make it my own, or do I want to leave it where it's at? Take the advice, hear it, but leave it where it's at and go in a different direction. That's why I think people have a trouble holding themselves accountable, because they get tired and weary because they don't know why or don't ask why.
Man, I like that you talked about asking why, man. And I ask why a lot. And I actually started asking why a little bit more since about 4 years ago. And what I've learned is, at the end of my life, I know that there's one thing that I want to hear. And it's that good and faithful servant, job well done, enter into the gates of heaven. That's all I want to hear. I don't care about any Biggie song, any Tupac song, any history lesson that I ever taught or heard, or any quote from a different coach that elevated me. I don't want to hear anything other than enter in the gates of heaven. You've done a great job. And I will tell you that if God is for you, who can be against you, right? When you talk about being weary, if somebody's standing by my side, right? I think we had one of our podcast guests, Mr. Willie Spears, right down in Alabama, with Valiant Cross. He said, I put my faith on Jesus Christ. Like, it's like having the best quarterback in the world. That's being on the sea with the best captain in the world. And it's one of those things like, man, you can't let people drive you down, right? You can't get weary. You got to keep fighting. You have to ask why. You have to ask why. You have to. Because sometimes, and I'll give you an example, like when you talk about your mom. Mom says, CB, don't buy the $1,000 phone. Okay, Mom, understand. $1,000 phone is going to break. Don't want that to happen. $1,000 phone is just not really, really good for me to have, because I got to make sure that this is paid for, this is paid for. But I take it a step further, because I'm like, well, why not, Mom? CB has very, 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 very good artistic talent. Maybe that phone could make or develop some kind of artwork that she could show somebody or show the world and communicate something bigger that's going to make her 10 times that $1,000. You see what I'm saying? And the thing about it is, you just, like you said, you got to ask why. But I know that you're a smart person. You probably didn't go get that $1,000 phone because you didn't need it, right? You have other resources that can help you do what you got to do, but you still had that opportunity to say, Mom, maybe that $1,000 thing is something that could help me. You know what I mean? And I've had that situation with different investments and different things that I've gone through. And like I said, and I said at the top of the show, there's been plenty of times that I've compromised, like, oops, I shouldn't have done that. I had to turn a loss into a lesson. So, man, this has been a great discussion, CB, man. I'm super excited. Always excited to get down and talk to you guys, talk to you and just have a good time. And I think we're going to keep going with the standard mini series, and I'm super excited for the next one. At the end of our podcast, we always come to the huddle, and we always call some things to action, just some different things that we want people to hear and to take from our show. So what's your call to action tonight, CB?
Well, because we're talking about standards, I think you need to ask yourself why. Like, why you do what you do. If you don't know, figure it out. If you do have standards, define them for yourself. Understand why you do them. And if you don't, it's time to start creating some.
Right. And I'm gonna go back to my 1988 joint, man. I was actually born in 87, so this song is as old as me. And the one thing that I want you to do is I want you to take a look at yourself. Go look at the man or woman in the mirror. And ask him to make a change. I gave you my 4 pillars at the beginning of the show. And I said, I've known these, my grandma taught me these, but that doesn't mean that you don't go off the path, right? 4 years ago, I was really, really angry. And I tell you what, those 4 things didn't matter. I was not living to those standards. I wasn't loving. I wasn't being truthful in some parts of my life. I wasn't having high energy, and I really didn't care what other people think, or I really didn't care about other people like that. I really wasn't showing empathy. So like I said, go look in the mirror this week. Ask the man or the woman in the mirror to make a change. Because like I said, if we're going to make this world a better place, we have to take a chance, look at ourselves so we can make that change. I'm going to leave us with our models first, and then I'll let you finish up, and we'll be out of here. Remember, Coach B loves you. Let love be the frequency.
And remember, don't discount your value. Find your values. And let's get 1% better every day.
All right, now, peace.